We don't have audio. We
Well,
just now
it just
have
shows
audio,
you where they're coming from.
so a couple minutes we'll be ready to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's just an unintended consequence. Yeah, so that's, so we'll figure it out. Yes, absolutely, yeah. How's it going? You're still standing.
Nisa, are you able to hear us, and can you speak so we can just make sure your audio works as well?
Sure, I can hear you.
Okay, great. We can hear you too, so we'll be getting started.
Okay.
All right, well, it's Monday, March 7th, 2022, and we are calling the City of Rollingwood Park Commission meeting to order. Let me see. We can do a roll call first, if everybody wants to holler out their names.
Melissa Morrow?
Mary Elizabeth Kofer.
Jennifer Meyer.
Chad Smith.
Laurie Mills.
Nicole Marisi.
All right, well, we normally start this with public comments. If anybody has any public comments, I know we've got a couple.
Okay, I'll kick this off. Gavin Massigill, Mayor of Rollingwood. Just wanted to report back to the Parks Commission. I had a great conversation with Justin Cannon at I-9. Expressed to him how, basically just asked him to stick with us, that we were excited that he was offering programming for our kids. Asked him to work with me directly and my staff at the city to sort of use a scalpel as opposed to a sledgehammer when we're trying to manage the fields for the use of everyone. I did approve, or we approved, his spring break camps for fields 1 and 2. He did say that he had a smaller group that was signed up this go around, and that he could accommodate 1 and 2. So we're going to do that. We're going to review later on his other request as we get closer to the summer. Full disclosure for everyone, though, as we get to summer and he has the big camps over some extended periods of time, they will require fields 3, 4, and 5. So prepare yourselves, prepare your minds, prepare your neighbors. Start thinking through what that's going to look like on a daily basis.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
And so when we get to that point, we will prioritize 3, 4, and 5 for him for those larger classes. So anyway, that's how we're going to proceed, cautiously, but I think it's going to be good. So anyway, just wanted to report back. Also, I had a good, I've mentioned this once to you. I'm going to reach out to all of you kind of individually or in small groups. I want to bring an issue to you that I think is really exciting. Jimmy Day is not older, well, it depends on your perspective. Just a little bit older than me, so not old at all. But he grew up in Rollingwood in the 60s and early 70s and has some really cool stories. His mother is Doris Day Swanner, and she passed away, but she was an early member of the Rollingwood Women's Club. Anyway, long story short, Jimmy would like to make a donation and do something significant, substantive in the park. And there would be some naming rights associated with that. So I've got some ideas. He and I have talked about it. Some pretty cool concepts that he's excited about that would result in some naming rights. So I don't want anyone, I'm rolling this out slowly because I don't want anyone surprised by it. I know how that goes around here. So going to be visiting with kind of individuals. I already started that with a few folks here in town. So if you hear of me having a conversation with Shanti or something like that, then don't worry about it because your time's a coming. So going to kind of bring you up to speed on what the thoughts are, and then we'll have a discussion here. We'll have a discussion maybe at RCDC. We'll have a discussion at council. But I'm just putting that on your radar. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Justin Cannon. I'm with I-9 Sports, and so I've been working with the Parks Commission, the City Council. Had a relationship with Rollingwood Park for about 6 years, actually, and we want to continue to work within the process as it is always evolving to be able to use the fields. And I just wanted to continue to work to get some clarification on the the approval processes and so forth that the mayor spoke about. We have some clinics starting in the weekdays coming up in March that my understanding was already approved based on our approval with Western Hills baseball and softball, which we have. And so just needing some clarification as we continue to move forward, because getting a little bit of different answers and things like that. So trying to figure out and make sure we are on the same page would be great as we go through the process. Thank you guys for your continued partnership, and hopefully we can add value to your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Good morning. I'm Brian Ryder, 2906 Hatley since 1985. I used to be a member of your group, and I'm now back on the RCDC, and I'm here as something of a missionary, perhaps, from the RCDC. We are discussing what we wanted to get done this year. A lot of that had to do with perhaps both operational things about the park and maybe improvements about the park. We don't have a huge budget, but we have some money, and we're interested in opening lines of communication so that we can talk about how to address things that would better the park for all of us. I coached Little League up there for 15 years and planted many of the trees that are up there, and I want to see the continuing improvement of the park for my grandchildren and your kids, being a generation older than you guys. I don't have a specific agenda of things. We just started discussing at our last meeting things we'd like to see done, many of which have to do with things outside of the park, but some of which have to do with possible projects that have implications on the park or that are in the park. And so I'm here to basically introduce myself, act as a communication line, and I look forward to having some discussions with you guys about that over the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're all well aware of your involvement over the years and appreciate it, everything you've done to help the park. Anybody else with public comments? Ms. Nicole?
Thank you. Nicole Marisi, 4906 Timberline Drive. And I come before you, the City of Rollingwood has recently implemented several changes regarding park rentals and usage. Countless hours, months of collaboration and discussion have taken place with both Park Commission and City Council. Ordinances have been adopted, and change is hard. It just is hard. In my opinion, we should strive to be known as a city of holding people accountable, not a city of double standards, exceptions, or showing favoritism. Unfortunately, recently several events have discredited our city's accountability, and vendors have been asked to relocate because off-leash dog owners did not respect the contractual agreements. Today we have on the agenda, item 5 is up for discussion to possibly not hold a vendor accountable for an ordinance that was passed by this commission and City Council. I'd like to read a couple of codes from our municipal code in the city. Section 2-153, it talks about policy. That it is the policy of the city that all city officials and employees conduct themselves in a manner consistent with sound business and ethical practices, that the public interest should always be considered in conducting city business, and that the appearance of impropriety must be avoided to ensure public confidence. Also in section code 2-154, conflicts of interest are prohibited, according to section A. No city official or employee may transact any business in his official capacity with or participate in any discussion, vote, or decision affecting any person with whom he has a personal business relationship or business entity in which he has any personal punctuary interest. All of us hold people accountable in our jobs, in our families, in our school districts. Why should holding people accountable be inconsistent in our city, especially by those who serve and represent the city? My husband asked me, why do you continue to serve and make change when one person can come in and undo the countless hours that you and other commission members invest in that you'll never get back? Let us uphold the democratic process and hold people accountable. I'll close with this final thought. All the ways of man are clean in his own sight, but the Lord weighs the motives. And that's from Proverbs 16:2. And I just ask as we go about making decisions that we continue to uphold the democratic process, to not show favoritism, to hold people accountable, and to let us be a city of reflection and accountability. Thank you for your time.
All right, anybody else for public comments? For the record, we've now got Don Hudson here.
Sorry I'm late.
Nope, all good. Just glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
All right, that's the end of public comments. We'll move on to our regular agenda and get an update.
I have public comment.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Nisa Springman, and I am the founder and CEO of Ignite Your Life. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the new City of Rollingwood Park facilities fee. I truly appreciate you providing this virtual option for me to attend and to provide public comments. Also, I'd asked Mrs. Wayman if she could provide you, those of you on the Parks Commission, a copy of the letter I sent on February 17th addressing my concern of the new fee as well as our request. So I first want to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing Ignite to lead our women's fitness classes at Rollingwood Park. For the past 13 years, we have provided fitness classes at the neighborhood park, with over 50% of the women who attend our classes either living in Rollingwood and or within the Eanes School District. And truly, I can't express enough how very grateful we are for the extraordinary park conditions. The Rollingwood Neighborhood Park is clean, it's safe, and well kept, and it's an ideal outdoor fitness environment for the women attending our classes, as well as their children. It truly has been a perfect location where health, fitness, fun, friendship, and community is nourished, and that's our goal. To provide a visual of how we use the park, during the spring and summer months, we hold our classes under the pavilion where we can avoid direct sunlight and any rain that were to come in, and oftentimes does. As you can imagine, during the summer, it gets pretty buggy, so we bring our bug repellent and enthusiastically, truly, exercise with the bugs and in the Texas humidity. We are always so grateful to get to be outside and exercising together. Then during the fall and winter, we move our classes upstairs to the concrete concession area where we can receive direct sunlight. Between the two locations, they provide an ideal health and fitness environment. We love it and our members love it. Throughout our time at Rollingwood Park, we have gladly complied with all the park usage rules and have enjoyed being good stewards of the neighborhood park. We happily park our cars where we are asked and make changes when asked as well. We have sponsored City of Rollingwood fundraising events, advertise and encourage City of Rollingwood events. In addition, we've encouraged City of Rollingwood event participation and always clean up after ourselves. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you asked Vicki Ballard if she's seen us sweeping, seen our class instructors sweeping after a rain or windstorm. We take great pride in helping keep Rollingwood Park beautiful, being a smiling face in the park, and befriending other park users. As I wrote in the letter, with so many new families moving into Rollingwood, we consider ourselves part of the Welcome to Rollingwood or Welcome to Austin welcoming committee. Excitingly, we feel like we've been able to welcome and connect new moms in the neighborhood, which has allowed them to create new friendships. And simply stated, we view our relationship with the City of Rollingwood as a partnership, and we take responsibility for helping make the neighborhood park friendly, clean, and beautiful. Currently, my concern is the new facility fee of $25 per class. As I stated in my letter, I was aware a new fee was going to be implemented, though not anticipating a $25 per class fee. To adjust for the price increase, as well as inflation, in January, I raised our prices for the first time in 7 years. However, the combination of the increase, being asked to pay 3 months in advance, and being given 28 days to prepare for the significant increase is deeply concerning. It's unaffordable, unsustainable, and honestly not possible for Ignite. Starting with the price and for Ignite, the increase jumped 7,420% from $180 annually, which is $15 per month, to $7,600 annually, or $616 per month. This equates to $1,850 per quarter. To compare the new City of Rollingwood Park facility fee to the City of Austin's park facility fee, the total we'd pay annually to the City of Austin is less than what we'd pay the City of Rollingwood in 1 quarter. We would pay the City of Austin $1,543 annually and the City of Rollingwood $1,850 quarterly. Additionally, we would pay a similar rate to use a heated or air-conditioned indoor space just down the street that is 4 times the size of the space we use at Rollingwood Park. In addition, the City of Austin requires facility users to pay on the 10th of the month after the reporting month, therefore preceding holding the classes. This allows for businesses to collect fee.
Can I interrupt you real fast?
Yes.
We limit public comments to 3 minutes. I've given you 5 minutes.
Okay,
And
I'll wrap it up.
Everything you've said so far, I think, was in your letter, and we did read it.
May I
yeah.
close with my final statement?
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the impact of the new facility fee, as well as having to pay 3 months in advance, is ultimately a game changer for Ignite. We can't afford this long term, and it would make it impossible for us to hold classes at Rollingwood and continue to serve the community. Not only do I see this as a monumental loss for the Ignite community, but I also see this as a loss for the neighborhood as well as the City of Rollingwood. It would be the loss of an exceptional relationship and partnership that we've had for 13 years. And knowing the fitness industry as I do, this change could potentially create space for other businesses to use the park and not care for it as we do. Our class average is between 9.3 and 13.4 women and primarily takes place on the concrete, leaving a minuscule footprint. However, there are plenty of other bigger outdoor fitness business whose class average is easily anywhere from 25 to 50 people per class. They could easily afford the $25 class fee, in turn, leaving a much greater imprint and footprint on the park. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else with public comments? All right, then we will move on to regular agenda item number 3. Update from Western Hills Girls Softball and Western Hills Little League. Oh, sorry. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the Park Commission, may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of consent agenda items unless a board member has requested the item be discussed, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the regular agenda. Discussion and possible action on the minutes from the February 7th, 2022 Park Commission meeting. Does anybody have any discussion? Does anybody want to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I'll second it.
Okay. Anybody opposed to the motion? Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, they're approved. All right, now on to item number 3. Steve.
Steve Frank, Western Hills Girls Softball, representative of Little League, I guess, also. Softball started a few weeks ago. Little League, if people have been in the park, basically it started in the last week, so you'll start to see the park fill up very quickly every day, pretty much. Softball's there probably at least every day. There might be some fields open. We'll work with Justin to get him some open space to finish up his camps. We just didn't know practice days and stuff, and in full till recently. So, but Little League is pretty much there all day. Schedules have been turned in. I believe I checked up top. I was there the other day, and I didn't see them in the things, but hopefully they'll be posted in the glass cases soon. I know since I've turned mine in, I've had one team change. Excuse me. So I'll get that updated, but that was a field 2 change, so that won't affect anything on 3, 4, and 5, at least for us. Fencing was finished. It's been paid for in full. It came out to be about $25,000 in full after everything was done. I believe they've taken care of most concerns with the gates and things like that, but if you guys still have any, please let me know. Viking was, once all was said and done, the person put in charge was really great to work with, and
Good.
he was very adamant about making everything right for us. So it just took a while for them to get on board. So. But everything else is, as far as I'm concerned, is going well. I just, I think both Little League and softball put it on their schedules. Just make sure that that's, people know that is, can subject to change due to weather. At least with last week with the cold, it kind of shut down practices and games and everything. And, people try to pick up a practice on open days at times. So it won't be 100% accurate if a team wants to pick up a day, but it should be, 90% accurate once those things are posted up there.
And is that when we posted in those glass cases, is that at the bottom, subject to change, weather?
It is on mine.
I know it was in the
Little
email
League,
to the
Little
city.
League basically is up there every day, so I don't even know if there's any openings.
Yeah, there's
but
not
softball
really.
does have a few openings, and I do post that
Okay.
it is tentative to
Just
change
want to
due
make
to
sure
weather.
that
But
those things are communicated and avoid.
and like I
as many
said, I
conflicts
think
as we can.
it's softball starts first, and there's just not as many teams, and so it just takes some getting used to of when we're going to be there. And at least from what I've seen, most people are receptive and know the rules, and if they don't, we ask and they understand.
Has it been
At least I haven't been aware of major conflicts or whatever in my mind.
And that was a question I was going to have or ask is, have you had any kind of challenges getting the season started? How can we support you
I
as
think
you?
the only challenge was knowing who was using field space. Like I didn't know Justin was up there, and
Okay.
so there was some one of our teams was looking to practice on a field, and I was like, yeah, it should be open, and then they showed up and it wasn't open because I wasn't aware he was having a camp on Thursdays or whatever at the time or whatever. And I think Little League starts a little later than us, so they were like, oh yeah, you're fine till March, but that wasn't the case because softball starts a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But that was, I think, evidently Justin, we have a good working relationship, and we'll work with him and make it happen no matter what.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, just looking to support you as you're going through your season, and if there's anything we can do to communicate, please let us know.
I'll answer questions, but I did want to bring up one thing because I haven't.
Well, I was going to ask a question about that. Ashley, I can't remember. I know we talked about trying to have something electronically on the city site to be able to, so that you don't have to walk up to the glass building, and then plus if stuff changes, we can get it up there. I know it's still really hard to make that happen.
We have it, it's a Google Calendar currently, and so the problem is if you don't have a Google account and you try to access it, you won't be able to see it. So we're not really sure yet on the best way to have it update live like that.
Yeah.
I think honestly putting generally the 4 o'clock to whatever block, and then just understanding that if a practice changes and there's a whole team out there, then yes, they can use it, right? So I'm hoping that works. I think the calendar is going to be more helpful for reservations of pavilions and other kind of scheduling like that. So, and we do intend just to have a sign that's up on the field, just says, hey, just be aware, softball and baseball are starting, and that's kind of enough to get people back in that rhythm again.
Especially because as rainouts happen, I know teams try to fill in the blank spots. So I think that would be super helpful to have it as close to the fence as possible, so that it's always easier for a person to point to a sign and not say, this isn't about you and me. This is what we have. That's what we've all agreed to. Yeah.
Well, I know Jennifer and I did a walkthrough of the park a couple months ago, and we pointed out several gates and things that needed a little tweak, and I know Viking fixed those, at least to my knowledge. So thanks for being on that, and I think the park's in better shape than it was before.
Yeah, just let us. I know those gates can get off quickly if people aren't using them properly or whatever. So if things happen, just let us know, and
You
we
mean
can
if a
work with
10-year-old
Vicky,
rides
or
it?
if we need to get Viking involved to repair, we can.
I have a question. I don't know if it should be directed at you or you guys, but There are many, many, many lost items in Hatley 3, 4, and 5 that were left over the weekend. Is there a place for lost and found? Because there were backpacks, there were lots of water bottles, there were balls, there was a mitt, there's just stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to get ruined in the rain.
For boys
but people
baseball,
need
I
to
know
be
we
able to find
use
it.
a little storage closet on the side is where we stick all of our lost and found items from Hatley. So if anybody, and I guess this is for the record, if anybody finds anything from over the weekend, if they want to set them up on that patio,
Okay.
the next boys baseball team will make sure it gets put in that little locker, and then all the players know that they can go check that locker at any point
Okay.
and try and find a lost and found.
That's good to know, because
Yeah,
I
it's
was out
the-
at dawn on
it's
Monday,
the-
and there was a
For
lot
the
of
baseball
lost
side, it's the door facing field 2, and on the softball side,
Well,
it's
so in the past,
concession
we've
stand
always
kinda.
used the concession stand, and
Yeah.
normally that'd be open every weekend at games. And so we'd have all the lost and found stuff in the back where people could see it, but we are still not running that because of, just the COVID and stuff, and it's a pain also, for very little money.
all right.
But usually we keep stuff in there. So there is a ledge
Yeah.
on the front by that closet in front of that concession stand, so you
Okay,
could
so
just
it's under
set-
the shelter?
You could,
Yeah.
you could just,
Okay.
yeah, you could
It's
just
where the
set things
roll-up door
there.
is. It's about waist height,
Okay,
and there's a little ledge there. That's where we usually stick our lost and found items.
okay, because
And then if
next
it,
time I see
yeah,
them,
we'll
they're
either
under.
put it away and wait for someone to try to claim it or
Yeah.
not, we'll see.
Good question. Anybody else? Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
I have one
Oh.
other thing. So opening day for softball, that was the day it was like high of 39 degrees, so it got canceled. That's when we usually have everybody in the park. So we are trying to brainstorm something else to do. However, at least for us, we're not always there every weekend because we have teams traveling to other leagues. However, we do have one weekend at the end of April, either the 23rd or the 30th. I think it's the 23rd though, that all our teams play at home. So we're talking and discussing about, trying to do some sort of Western Hills Day. I would like to talk to Little League also and see if we could do something a little extra that day and, possibly have, some trucks, food trucks maybe for
Yeah, I know in the past
snow
we've had
cones
Chick-fil-A
or something,
sandwiches
yeah.
and the mayor throw
That
out
would
the
be
first
fun.
pitch.
have the mayor. He was supposed to come out. He was
So the first-
Since you're here, can we get a commitment?
He-
I think that's
he was
appropriate,
very
Mayor.
happy I canceled opening day.
Whatever you think is the most dramatic for
But I
you.
hopefully by next April, the April meeting, we'll at least have more details if
Yeah,
we're gonna do
be great.
something.
It'll be fun.
But, yeah, just something to, get out there that we could do something for both leagues.
I think that would be great fun.
That would be fun.
Mhm.
Community event.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Any other questions, comments?
No,
All right, thank
nothing
you.
here. Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
All right, next up, discussion and possible action on a funding request to the Rollingwood Women's Club regarding an expansion of the butterfly garden. Somehow I think this has Mary Elizabeth involved.
You guys started it. I mean, my first meeting here, y'all said we wanted to have a butterfly garden, and
Uh-huh.
y'all sent me on my way.
Twisted your arm pretty hard,
Yeah,
huh?
Well, okay, so do I talk? I can talk from here, right? Okay, so I went to the Rollingwood Women's Club. First of all, Don was wonderful. He met me up there, and I showed him what my plans were, and he made a drawing for me. So let me send one of these in each direction. It's in your packet, but if you take a look at this, send one that direction, one this direction.
Let's go ahead and look at it, Jennifer.
And it's
then-
actually in your packet, it's, that you have. So this is what I took to the Rollingwood Women's Club. So what I explained to them is that we wanted to take the existing butterfly garden, such as it was, done with donated
Okay.
plants and dirt and guano that I got out of the bat caves at our ranch, and I'm not doing that anymore after this year. I'm just telling you, it's just nasty.
Thank you.
Anyway, and I explained to them what we had done with the original garden there, and that I wanted to expand it, and y'all gave me, you know, somewhat of a go-ahead to do this. And so then I had met with somebody about building a steel trellis. I wanted something that would last, something sustainable. At first I looked at doing a wood trellis, but Don was like, get something that's gonna last. And everybody else that looked at it with me said, no, let's get something that'll last. So we got numbers on getting a steel trellis put in, and that would kind of be a little bit of a safety thing, because you immediately have that drop off into the lower park, and you know, we're trying to protect that area. So if you look at this, okay, so if you, hold on. Send this down to Nicole and Lori.
I've got one in front of
We
me.
have
you
one
do?
right
Okay,
here.
Yeah,
great.
we got one over
Okay.
here. We're in good shape.
Okay, so if you look at this drawing and you see where the addition to the park, to the garden is, to the left is where we were thinking about putting a bench. And we put that there specifically because we don't want people going back behind the garden. Again, safety is an issue too. We don't want them traipsing through plants. And then we looked at putting in plants, digging for them individually as opposed to tilling the whole thing up, because we've all been worried about the soil and any kind of erosion factors. So if we take the existing stone that's there, the cut stone, and we line it up, you know, go ahead and continue that line across the back, then I'll build up that soil there. So I went to Rollingwood Women's Club and told them what had been done so far, and talked about the plants that we wanted to put in, which would be much bigger plants than we've used in the past, because it won't come out of my pocket this time. What we wanted to do, they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They gave me approval for the funding. I explained to them that this probably doesn't cover everything, but I couldn't get everything together in time for the meeting. And they said, that's okay. Go with this. If you need more, you can come back and ask for more.
Okay.
I actually got a couple of the women there said, we'll help you when it comes time. I still don't have somebody to do the cement, and somebody there said, oh, I know somebody. I need somebody to do the cement footings for the steel trellis. So anyway, here we are. And I need y'all's blessing. And then I've got to go to city council on Wednesday and get their blessing. So can I have it?
Do you want to make a motion?
Hey,
So
I've got a
Can
question.
you tell us how much the Rollingwood Women's Club approved to spend?
They gave me $2,738.
$38.
So your motion will include their donation covering the costs of the,
Yes, yes.
But labor's not included, right?
So, no, that's on Dawn and anybody else that I can get to the neighborhood. Actually, Maggie Broglio and Wendy Pollard both said they would help, and then I've got a couple of guys here in the neighborhood that said that they would help. And
I'll help out if I'm free. That sounds like a worthy cause.
y'all heard it.
Yep.
Witnesses.
yes.
All right, let's make a motion.
Wait, whoever's doing the steel, they won't do the concrete footings for it?
You know what? He was trying to keep his bid low for me.
Okay.
I didn't have a clue how much the Rollingwood Women's Club would give me.
Right.
So I think he thought that that would keep the cost a lot lower if I could get those done. And I think they're fairly simply done. So,
Yeah, you dig a hole and put your trellis in place and fill it with sackcrete. It's pretty straightforward, and there's water there, right?
I think you
Yes.
dig a hole and put your cement in, and you put this piece in it. And then he comes back and bolts the trellis to that.
Would he provide that piece?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know these are all natives, but do they require or would they benefit from irrigation? I know we don't have electricity there, but we do have water.
We have water, and we will not put them on a normal sprinkler. When I spoke to Scott Ogden, was the botanist or arborist that we worked with on the plants down front. He said they would do better if we don't put them on regular irrigation because of the calcification that the plants would get from the water here. So you want plants that aren't dependent on regular water. They do need more water than they got last year, but we didn't get water here until the end of the year. And then thank God for Brian Ryder. We got water just close to it, but it was still like 100 feet away. And Brian went out there one weekend and he dug a 90-foot. First of all, he bought a water hose. Then he dug a 90-foot trench from where the water was close to it all the way over there and buried this water hose. And he bought me one of those things you roll the hose up on and put it back behind the bushes because kids. Just kids. They will, if they see this, they will, I'm just going to stop there. So it's all hidden, disguised or hidden from the kids, thanks to Brian Ryder. And I have water right there now for the first time ever.
So that's something we just water as needed.
Yes, and any of y'all can feel free, man, jump in and help me because I could use some help. Water. You walk by there, the water is to the.
We should do it on our walkthroughs. We
Yeah,
need water.
I mean, that would be such a big help.
So the hose was hidden until you stated it on the public record.
Not too
Yes,
many kids will
exactly.
be
Oh,
watching.
but you know what? How many kids are going to watch?
I'm just kidding.
We'll be lucky if the adults do.
Any other questions before we make a motion? All right. Who wants to propose the motion?
You do?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the plans for the expansion of the butterfly garden substantially in accordance with the plans presented, and approve the donation of roughly $2,700 from the Rolling Wood Women's Club, and state for the record that we're really appreciative.
Oh,
Do I have a second?
second.
I second.
All right.
Little discussion.
Yeah.
Should the motion include that the Women's Club is open to further donations? Isn't that,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
You
Yes.
did mention that.
you did mention that?
Yes.
I just wanna, if that's in place, that should probably be part of the motion, just,
That we accept further donations?
well,
Or
or that they.
The Rolling Wood Women's Club can accept further donations?
The Women's
No,
Club,
we would accept their donation.
they would, if they said
Another
they would
donation from them to complete it.
provide further donations as needed.
Yes.
All right, I'd like to amend my motion to state that if the Rolling Wood Women's Club wants to give us more money, that they can.
Yes.
We take all money.
Yes. Especially green.
Yeah.
Is anyone opposed? Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's approved.
Great job,
Moving on to number
Thank
5.
both of you.
Discussion and possible action regarding a fee structure for long-term commercial park users.
So I'm so glad Nicole brought up some of her concerns about it. So I brought this, I asked Ashley to add it to the agenda, and I saw we have a next discussion item on how we bring things to the agenda, because up until now, we've just brought it to Ashley to add to the agenda. One of the things I think Nicole brought up that is a really important thing for all of us to know and consider when we talk about things on the Parks Commission is conflicts of interest. I think that's super important, and I believe that most of us, when we signed on, and I know for City Council, you basically reveal any businesses that you're attached to, anything that you would have a conflict of interest to. And in this community, you know, obviously there's a lot of stuff in the parks that we all have conflicts of interest, whether we have kids playing baseball or softball, or I myself attend Ignite exercise classes. I know the guys from Life Keto who, you know, who've done work with us before, because my kids have attended Life Keto. My kids were in girls softball. So there's always conflicts of interest that all of us do, partly because we're involved in our community. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I do think it's really important when we discuss things, and it's probably a good idea just if we adopt that generally, I think Ashley, I'm sure, I don't know how city council does it, but when you bring an agenda up, it would be important to know who has a business interest and what do those conflicts of interest, what constitutes a conflict of interest? Because I do think, and our city attorney can kind of give us more background on that. I think it'd be really important for our city attorney to send us all a thing that says what constitutes a conflict of interest. Because even if something doesn't look like a conflict of interest to one person, it may look like it to someone else. But I do believe there's a legal definition of what a conflict of interest is. And generally it's if you serve on the board of, or that if you have a fiduciary responsibility to that business or to that organization. For instance, I think, Chad, you still sit on Western Hills Little League board.
Absolutely.
I do attend Ignite, and I have been going to them for 10 years, but I don't have a business interest in Ignite. So I do attend it just like your kids or other people's kids attend Western Hills Little League or participate in it, but I don't. So I did, I do know that NISA, along with Jennifer Wooten and the people at Life Keto and some of the others, were concerned about the new fees that we adopted. And I do think that, this is something new that we've adopted. None of us knew we knew that there would be some unintended consequences, whether it was with the birthday parties at the pavilion or with some of our long-term renters. Like, for instance, one of the other issues that I think is gonna come up over and over again that we talked about a little earlier with the parks and having a good schedule is that the more that we use it, the more it will be important that we're communicating the schedule to all the partners, because it is really easy to double book something. And with Western Hills Little League and the girls softball being such a big partner, and because, when, as much as they would love to be able to tell you that they know they're gonna have 600 kids who sign up this year, you don't know from one year to the next. It could be that you have 300, or you could end up having 700. And so one of the challenges that I think we're gonna have with those leases is that someone like I-9 wants to be able to say, hey, I'm offering a clinic and I wanna set it for these days and times. Because if you're gonna do signups, you pretty much need to do those signups 3 or 4 months ahead of time. One of the things at WEA that we do is we have our primary ones, whether it's Western Hills Little League, for instance, and then we don't book those fields. We really don't, we have to wait until their registration is complete, because they may have some opportunities and times that are available, but they may also have one of those seasons, and I'm telling you, this is gonna be one of those seasons where everybody is ready to come back to baseball. And so you're gonna have way more teams and times filled up just within the agreement that we already have with them. And so it's going to be harder for us to fill in with those other ones. The bummer part about that for the staff is that means you have to tell those other people, I'm so sorry, but we can't give you any promises until we have their schedule. And their schedule, which started in March, doesn't come until March. So being able to tell a I-9, while we don't want to hurt their feelings, we're going to have to really work hard on managing their expectations and saying things like, we would love to have you up here, and if we have space, we will let you have it, but Western Hills Little League and Western Hills girls, they get first choice, and they won't know until March for that to happen. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to do with Ignite, because they don't have a conflict of interest right now, but you can see how those kinds of things, we're not intending to be a bad partner to our other people. It's more about managing those expectations, because we're not going to be able to tell them way that far in advance. The other thing that came up in my mind about that was that, we talked at the last meeting about putting in new grass throughout those fields. You have to think about those kinds of improvements that we're going to do. If we're going to do them outside of their league time in like a May, June, July, that means we're not going to be able to rent that out for summer camps. And you really do have to think about that way, way ahead of time. Anyway, all that being said, I know that you guys got in your packet. One of the things that NISA had brought to us, being very, that gave you on a granular level, what did it mean to them in terms of their cost change? I don't think our intention by putting this in place was meant to kick out people that we had existing. And honestly, Ashley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ignite is probably our longest one. They've been there for like 13 years. I think that Jennifer, how long has she been there?
Maybe a year, maybe just over.
Yeah.
Since I've been here, she's been a new
Okay.
addition.
Jean with Life Keto, who does although I think he does it outside of
So
Life Keto.
That's different.
The
Yeah, they're a
Taekwondo
second
class.
one. Right, and they've just recently come in and want to start the commercial use, scheduling. But they were separate from the Life Keto that was using the lower park. That's
And-
been also about a year, maybe year or two now.
Okay.
And the fee schedule we have adopted is based on, she kept referencing City of Austin, but we based ours on how Eanes does it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're undervalued still.
Yeah. So, but it is really different. I mean, you have to, that's fine if we want all of those vendors to go to City of Austin and not have anything available for our citizens to utilize here. But I don't think that was really the intention, was to move them out of our city. Because we do have citizens who live here, obviously, that do enjoy being able to do it in the park outside. The other thing that I was gonna say is Western Hills Little League and girls softball, because they're a long-term lease, we did do a different deal with them. And so I do think when we put this in place, part of it was the idea this is just a starting place for us. It doesn't mean that this is where we're going to be 50 years from now. It's just a starting place for us to say, hey, we know that we're undervaluing our piece, but also not all things are the same. Just like the pavilion is different than using the fields, or if someone wanted to use the playground, that would be different. Each of those things. And so part of this is us sort of coming to understand, okay, well, what vendors do we want to have in here? What is a reasonable amount? And also, I know for the staff, the thing that costs you the most is when they're having to keep booking and taking time, changing schedules, and doing that kind of stuff. With somebody like Ignite or, is it called Beat Fitness? I'm hoping that it's once a year. They walk in there and they say, we want from 7:30 to 8:30 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's it. It's not gonna be changing seasonally. It's not gonna be, from one time to another or switching around. So anyway, I thought it was a good idea for us to, as we see the vendors that we've had for a long time, again, I know our intention was not to get rid of them, but to have some income from it. I mean, obviously $180 is nothing. So something reasonable. So anyway, that's why I brought it to us, for us to just begin the discussion. I'm not even proposing what we think should be different about it, but just an opportunity for us to look and see what kinds of things would we like to have here, and what do we think a fee structure since they came to us and said, look, that's untenable, we're leaving. And I know for myself, not having to drive to City of Austin, I sure enjoy not having to do that, being able to walk over, bike over. But if that's what it has to be, I'm fine with that. I mean, I go to their other classes that are in Austin, so it's not the end of the world for me, but I know that wasn't our intention.
I would like to speak to this. First of all, I can't show favoritism. I don't play team sports, and I don't attend any of these classes, so I need to make that clear. But when I look at the use of the park, for me, I'm very fortunate y'all can't charge me, because I mainly use the trails and cut across the fields and stuff. So there is no fee for me. But I do see the use of, by the classes, as being different than the use of the fields. I see that very different. So if that makes a difference, the use of a class here or there, whether it's between the fields or by at the pavilion or anywhere else for a few hours a week, I see that as being different as taking up an entire field. And that's really all I had to say.
Don, I think you had something.
Yeah, couple things. When Melissa and Nicole and I hammered on this thing for several months, I think we knew that there'd be some pushback on the increase in fees. And I guess this is timely. We were thinking it's they're valuable spaces. And I don't know where we go from here, but I don't know that the city needs the money particularly. I mean, the city always needs money, as does the park. Hearing about Ignite as they describe themselves and as Melissa describes them, they seem like a terrific partner in the use of the facilities. So we may want to consider, it's like if you're leasing, you get a different rate when you're leasing something for a year than when you're leasing something for a weekend, say. So there's probably some wiggle room in there. Another thing I wanted to just ask Melissa, if we got fields, the baseball fields, if we got them reconstituted, fresh grass, got them happy and healthy, are they likely to stay that way for a year? I know they wear, but you know, Zilker Park, my God, they move in. They just nearly destroy the park the way they use it. We don't use the park that way. Is baseball and just the community use, is it likely to ruin? I mean, once we got it going, wouldn't it be something we could maintain rather than having to shut the parts of the park down several months a year?
You would hope so. I would have to say
would.
that even if we brought in turf, it would probably take 2 or 3 years for us to, one, figure out all the watering and also just get it in where it's really well established. And then you can either get lucky or unlucky with a drought or a cold year like the snowpocalypse. But one of the main reasons I talked about that whole putting in that turf is that nobody has done that in 30 plus years. Like no one has, we haven't even tried it. And so I do think it's worthwhile for us, I mean, you know, to get that started. I know Western Hills Little League, you know, it's a struggle for them, and they really only use it 8 months of the year. And so in a way, you know, it is really, I feel like, by having the city take more of a responsibility, and there's way more money, I hate to say it, but in collection of taxes than there is in the fees that any of us are paying for baseball and softball and, you know, other activities up there. So I don't want to promise you that it will look beautiful, but I mean, you go to St. Andrews, St. Stephen's, some of those fields, and I mean, I was on one of them this weekend, and they literally had everything covered because the track meet was going on, and it was real grass, and I was impressed with, now, but they spend money on it. I mean,
they spend a lot of money.
You do have to spend money. We don't have to, it doesn't have to look like that, but it could, I believe that 3, 4, and 5 could look as good as the outfields of 1 and 2 if we would make the initial investment, and it'll be painful. It'll be painful of keeping people off of it for probably 3, you know, like I said, 3 mowings, and then we let people on slowly to kind of, you know, work it. But it's not going to get better without doing it. You know,
We have 2 separate conversations.
I agree.
going on.
Yeah,
So
we-
I'm
Yep.
trying to, I think the ball field maintenance, and I do
A
think
separate
we
item.
need to invest in them, and
Yeah.
we need to take care of them, and we need better ongoing of the fields. But I think where we are in the agenda is the fee structure.
Yep.
I mean, I hate to see great vendors go. It's not our job to judge vendors and their values or change things according to their worthiness. We do want people to, I want people to use our parks. I think that's why they're there. I don't know, I feel like you guys spent a lot of time coming up with this structure. You obviously felt it was fair in the way that you came up with it and looking at what it does to our small businesses. There's definitely a hardship there. I don't know where the middle ground is, but it needs to be across the board. It needs to be for everybody. And I don't know if it needs to just be revisited by the team or how that works, but there's gotta be a happy medium. But yes, it is gonna be painful for some of these businesses for the way that we've been operating for the past several
Decades.
years at a nothing cost. So it will be painful regardless, but yes, that increases a lot. and there's gotta be some middle ground.
Can you guys can y'all, the team meet? I mean, I hate to do this, but can y'all meet again and discuss this?
Well, here's also that we have, go ahead, Steve. Oh, go ahead. Please.
I'll just say, I'm just gonna say a comment for, hopefully I'm not speaking chattel, speaking for softball and Little League.
Yeah, sure. Go.
You know, we are a huge proponent on putting this structure in. We've always felt like until this discussion took place is basically we were almost funding all park expenses. And that was part of our discussion with, you know, the renewal of this lease and the fee structure of what we changed to. You know, it was the previous park commission, I don't think any of you were on that. You know, they analyzed, you know, the hours we used the park and all that, and it did fall into the range of, you know, the amounts we paid in total. It did come out in like the $22 to $25 an hour rate, which kind of was in line with the lower end of the Eanes scale. And I appreciated that, you know, Don and Nicole and Melissa met, you know, with me, and we discussed through, and I don't have a vote or anything on this, but just to get my feedback on where we felt like things and where the fees should be and stuff. But as mentioned, I think, you know, it's a tough, you know, one size fits all. So, you know, we want to keep it kind of in a fair value range, but do you think about, which creates more hardship on the people administering, you know, a smaller space, should it be a different price or whatever, rather than field 2 being that $25 or field 3, 4, 5, something like that. But that's my only comment. I definitely think it should go in place in some form or fashion. It's just how much harder you want to make it with different tiers or something like that, or not.
Are we charging $25 an hour for the pavilion?
No.
They are an exception. So we are not supposed to be able to rent out the pavilion. Only for parties. It should be $100 for a 3-hour block. So they have an exception to work out in the pavilion.
And I don't think that they're actually expecting it. I think they're just using it. It's my understanding they're just using it when it happens to be vacant, just like other people do.
I think that they structure their class to be located there. Like that's part of.
7 a.m.
Oh,
parties.
Right.
I thought
the
just
other
when
thing
it was
is when
open.
they're using it, other people aren't for organized
Right.
events.
Yeah.
Well, and also this is a for-profit. So if I understood their pay structure correctly, it's $170 a month, unlimited use. And on average, they can't have a 0.3 of a person. So you either round up or you round down. Let's just say they have 10 people per class on average. And they have back-to-back classes. So you know the 10 people coming in at 7:30 are not staying for the 8:30 class. So you have 20 people there, right? And so maybe those people come once or twice or 3 times a week. Let's just say on average, minimum 25 monthly participants. So if you do the quick math on 25, just being conservative, it's $4,200 a month that they're earning in income to use our space. And we're asking to charge them $600 a month for those 5 hours a week. So it's a huge, huge cut to their profits. Absolutely. But also I look at Justin Cannon, who has, for his spring break camp, he has 20 kids signed up. So they could get, I counted last week, they had 17 ladies working out. So Justin Cannon is paying $25 an hour for his 20 kids to come per hour for his spring break camp. So the size of the classes are pretty consistent of who's using the field space. He just needs it because his camp is a little bit more athletic and the kids need a bigger space to run around. And it's a hard place, because how do we be consistent and fair and have equity across the board? If I go to Eanes ISD and I want to rent a field for my 11 kids to play 7-on-7, I have to pay $33 an hour plus $20 for lights. If the lacrosse team comes in and they have 150 kids, they pay $33 an hour for the turf field and $20 for lights. There's no preferential treatment for me as a user, even though I don't have the bankroll to subsidize it. I don't have that income. And so again, I think more of it is having consistency within our city and acting according to what we've adopted, we've discussed, we've collaborated, we've gotten approval through, and then to revisit it it's difficult.
I think that's what our job is, though, is to revisit it. This is a brand new structure that we put in place, and it's not like we have an agenda of 50 items. And we have our 5 vendors. All 5 of those small vendors have come to us and said,
Life
"We're
Keto
out."
paid their quarterly dues up front. They didn't have any, Jason did not have any backlash on it. He said, what do I do? Vicky, are you raising your hand? Oh, sorry. So I was like, oh, did I not know something? So he said, okay, great. I'm going to fill out the application. Where do I send my check?
So we got Life Keto and I-9 and
Yes.
Western Hills. Both organizations are paying roughly $25 an hour.
And Jennifer Wooten said she would pay the fees until she found another place to relocate. So you've got 4. So you've got Ignite that's not willing to comply with the ordinance that was passed through this commission and adopted into city council.
I don't think she said she wasn't going to comply. She just said she wanted people to understand what the fee structure was different.
Yeah, I don't see it that same way at all. And also, I'm able to walk out my door and come down here to the park. The other thing is, a lot of these people, if they truly are from the neighborhood and I see them here, I really like people being able to exercise in their own neighborhood.
I think she mentioned it was about 50% Rollingwood residents, 50% not.
Rollingwood and Eanes ISD.
Correct.
Those combined
Yeah,
were
that's-
50.
I don't know.
I'm kind of torn here because I feel like everything across the board is more expensive, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. Everything has truly gone up, and you're paying more for a gallon of gas. You're paying more for everything. We do have a valuable commodity. I think the price we agreed upon is very fair. At the same time, I think Ignite's the exact type of use we want up there in the mornings.
Exactly.
And so getting something fair for them, I understand it's a bump, but it's honestly, it's something that the other groups have been paying for years now. And, if we want to come to some agreement that if they use just the cement inside, the pavilion, that it's X rate and anything else is something else, that I'd be open to it. Because I don't want to lose groups like Ignite or Beat or any of them, because I think those are great groups. But I do think we ought to enforce this uniformly across the board. And it's not fair for girls softball to pay for the upkeep of the outfield and then to come out there and there's an Ignite class working out in the outfield paying $180 a year.
Well,
So I get it on both
but
sides.
does Ignite work on the fields?
Occasionally they do.
There have been definitely
Yeah.
some fitness groups out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Ignite. I just drive by and see them out there working out, and that's a use on the fields.
Yeah, if
that
they're regularly working out on the fields, that's, I thought they were working out on the cement.
They're 99% of the time they're on that, the porch of the concession stand. They're there during the winter because it's warmer, because this is like a cave, the pavilion is during the winter.
Yeah, she
And-
said that in her letter.
Yeah, and so, I just think, and also, it doesn't, for the staff, it doesn't cost anything. We don't have to weed, feed, cut, or anything of those pieces of concrete in terms of maintenance. So in that way, I do see it being different than the fields. I also think it is important for us to, I think it would be great for us to look at what the Western Hills Little League and softball agreement is, and just double check, this is how much they're paying an hour, because I do think that is helpful. The one thing that I would caution you about, different from WEA and different from Eanes ISD, is that the parks are covered by tax dollars. Now, I know Eanes is covered by tax dollars, but our other people don't get to, if I'm just a community member, I don't, not always get to go just use Eanes ISD. So it is a different kind of business than the city having a park.
Does anybody know really the number of the tax dollars that come in to fund the park? Because I was under the impression that we do not get enough to fund the park.
We have always been told that since I've been on the
What
board.
what you need
The
to think about is how much tax dollars do go to support the park. Not necessarily, the city council can decide how they want to distribute those funds. They can say, we want the police department to use this much of the funds. It's really the council's decision about how much funds we have. Now, normally what happens is Parks Commission says, we recommend this as our budget. And that's how it comes about. But what I'm saying is that the big difference is, but our citizens, they do pay taxes in order to use the park. That's just part of what we do. It's in it's in the city budget. There's no other entity, support, like, making stuff happen in the parks.
I know we got one more item on the agenda. Is there an action
Steve, you wanna
item
say
on
something?
this one? Number
Steve
5 here?
I guess
Oh.
one more comment on top
Yeah.
of that is, so there was definitely two parts of that letter as I read through it, was the fee increase, but then the other issue was the payment terms. So paying up front, I guess, is that something that, might help them stay or whatever? Because I do agree that, like, when we rent Eanes Fields or whatever, we pay after the month of use or whatever. And so that might be something you guys consider as a,
Yep.
a
It's a good point.
reduction or whatever.
Looking at the fee structures.
Well, and then the last thing too is that
Payment structure.
we'd have to discuss also that the lower pavilion technically is not supposed to be rented out. So is that structure considered different? Because we're not allowed to rent it out other than parties. So we were making exceptions for them to facilitate and operate there because of the conditions outside, because it's so hot. So again, we're having this conversation and we're just looking at everybody's usage of it and where they're using it. And
For example, what if another group said, well, we'd like to come in at 9:30 in the morning
correct.
Yeah.
at the pavilion during the
Exactly.
week?
Yep. And we have birthday parties that start at 10, so sometimes they might have to set up early. So
Well,
there's
then the birthday party would obviously preempt them. They would not be able to be there. I think that's kind of a given. It's
Does-
whoever has the reservations.
Yeah. All
Does
right.
Ignite
The only
use it?
action item I would
I-
suggest is
Yeah,
I'm
action
fine
item.
with Nicole and Don and I getting back together and just looking at it and saying, do we feel like, now that we've had those groups come to us and we can, get each one to make a statement to us of what they think would be fair. Because I do think the other part was she did propose a different fee structure given the different area.
I would
Do
really
we need
appreciate it if y'all would discuss that. I hate to put more work on your plate, but if y'all would at least talk about it, and whatever y'all decide, I think I'm gonna feel comfortable with, that y'all at least gave him that time.
So y'all want to meet and then come back and propose something to us? Is everybody who's on that committee open to meeting?
I am.
Nicole
Yes.
and
Talking about-
Melissa.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
So
meet.
somebody, Melissa, you want to make that motion?
That we'll meet and look at a fee structure
Second?
different for our long-term commercial users.
Anybody want a
second that.
Payment
Okay.
structure.
Or payment structure, yep.
Okay. And is anybody opposed? Everybody in favor say aye.
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 All right, it's approved. The last one, and I think, Ashley, is this the one I put on there? Number 6? Discussion regarding future park commission agenda items. And Melissa, I don't think this is exactly what you were thinking of, and I know it's kind of vague, but I put it on here because we only had really 4 items on this agenda this month. And if we're gonna meet once a month, I wanna make it valuable for our time. And so I'm kind of, challenging everybody to think about, other items we can discuss, other ways we can make the park more valuable. And if not, we're just gonna maybe meet every 2 months. Maybe skip a meeting in the summer, and just meet every 2 months and really make use of our time, having an hour to do this.
In the past, I believe they did not meet during the summer.
That's right. That's right. So we're in March now. We got April and May to kind of come up with some, important, valuable ways we can help the park. And if we don't, we'll just skip a meeting and do it every 2 months, something like that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. When I met with Ashley and was going over these agenda items, I was like, there's not too much to talk about. So
Normally, our meetings run over.
I know. Well, we're at time. So anyway, there's no action item on that one. I just wanted to challenge everybody to come up with some ways we can improve the park and have valuable things to talk about. And if not, maybe we'll meet every other month. And with all that being said, I make a motion to adjourn.
What about financials?
What about financials? Oh.
We've never gotten to them before.
Okay.
They're just a report in the packet. In the future, we can put them as a discussion item if y'all would like, but they've always been just listed under reports for
Yeah,
information.
they're in there.
We could bring
Cool.
those back at another time to discuss.
All right. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Second? We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.